Good afternoon, participants. I am Yashwendra Singh, Executive Editor of ETCIO, and I welcome you all to this very topical webinar on enabling India to work from anywhere. With the COVID-19 outbreak, majority of the Indian workforce is working from home. To ensure business continuity, organizations are providing necessary infrastructure and support to their employees. However, all such efforts might fall short because of poor internet connection followed by low bandwidth issue across various locations, thus leading to major disruption in the workflow. To cope up with the rising need for smooth connectivity, organizations are seeking solutions for securing enterprise network, choosing the right connectivity solutions, upgrading network bandwidth within a short time span, and similar issues. In today's webinar, participants, experts from Airtel will guide you through various solutions that can be implemented by organizations to ensure uninterrupted network connectivity to their workforce. You will also get insights into how Airtel, being an essential service, has kept everything running and serving India using the same solutions. I would now like to introduce you to our two experts. We have with us Ms. Harmeen Mehta, Global CIO and Head Cloud and Security Business, Bharti Airtel. Harmeen is responsible for all engineering across India, South Asia, and 14 countries in Africa. She also leads the cybersecurity, cloud, and applications business for Bharti Airtel. She has over 20 years of experience as global CIO and global technology roles with companies such as BBVA, Bank of America Merrill Lynch, and HSBC. She has been recognized by Economic Times as top 10 women in the telecom and tech industry across the globe. We also have with us Mr. Ashish Arora, CEO, Enterprise Business, Airtel Business, Bharti Airtel Limited. Ashish is a dynamic leader with over 20 years of experience leading large B2B business in telecom and IT industry. He excels in developing winning business strategies to achieve short and long-term objectives. Ashish has worked with SIFI and HCL Technologies in the past. So without any more delay, participants, I would request Ms. Harmeen to deliver her presentation. Over to you, Harmeen ma'am.
Thank you very much, and a very warm welcome to everybody. Good afternoon. Hope you're all staying healthy and staying safe as well. These are indeed unprecedented times, and we are all finding each other, supporting each other in situations that we hadn't anticipated before. So very glad to be talking to you today a little bit about what Airtel is doing internally and also what we are doing together with our customers to help them through these incredibly tough times. I think if we can just move forward on the slides. So we'll cover three topics today between me and Ashish. We'll talk about the general challenges of business continuity and how we're doing it at Airtel, and then we'll also discuss some of the work from home solutions that we have and what we've implemented internally, as well as what we do for our customers as well. As you all can imagine, in a crisis like this, telecom companies and companies like Airtel, we form part of essential services for the country. So the onus on us to keep the backbone of the country going is absolutely immense. The level of BCP that we've had to invoke is much of a higher level and a different cadre altogether, because in every single BCP strategy we had developed to date, you always imagine that you've got one site which has got affected and how you would move to another site, whether it is for people, systems, or even processes. However, in this situation, we found that everything is almost locked down, and hence, what are the challenges that one faces, and how do you overcome them? One of the biggest things being an essential services, this goes way beyond what we need to do to keep Airtel running. It is not about that at all. Our first priority, in fact, our entire BCP plan is divided into three parts. One is what we need to do to keep the country running. So it's called what is need to keep the country going. Then what is need to keep the company going. And with that order is how we prioritized each one of our BCP strategies as well. In order to keep the country going, one of the biggest pieces keep the network going so people can use it. It's an essential communication, in fact, the communication source at the moment, since we can no longer just even walk down the street and just talk to somebody. But keeping the network experience going at such a time, What we have seen is an unprecedented growth of about 25%, and this didn't happen gradually like normal growth happens. This literally happened overnight. It happened, this is the difference between before the Sunday lockdown and post the Sunday lockdown. A massive surge. Plus, the pattern of surge was also very different to what you would normally see. The sites which would normally see a very high traffic are no longer the sites today that are seeing the most high traffic. Residential areas have way higher traffic, commercial areas have way lower traffic, whereas the patterns in the past have been completely opposite. So getting that entire network ready for all of you and your friends, family, as well as your companies has been a big priority for us. How did we do it? We had to literally overnight augment a large part of our capacity. We've been on Airtel internally is a highly digital organization where all of our workforce is fully digitized, from our retailers to our network engineers. Using that entire strength of the digital backbone of our workforce management solutions, we are able to mobilize literally tens of thousands of people across the country, but in a very micro segmented manner, where we're able to pinpoint, depending on what is the issue, what needs to be done, which is the right person in the right geography down to the right pin code, and can actually get to that job the soonest to be able to service either ourselves or the country. And the same applies when we are servicing any of our enterprise customers as well. And that really came in handy, especially as it was a much reduced workforce as well. The lockdown posted another set of challenges for us. With mobility restricted on the roads, despite being essential service, every single one of our people who has to be on the roads, we had to ensure that we had the right permissions, the right passes, etc., all throughout the country, whether it's a small village or it's a large city, the process has been the same. And getting through that, if we didn't have a fully digitized workforce management solution, would have been almost impossible to control and imagine, because you don't know who's going to come and show up at work the next morning and who's got the pass and who not. So this entire digitization of this entire process was essential to keep our network experience going. And then finally, one of the other bold decisions that we took almost within the few hours of the lockdown is, on the network, all of our corporate customers have been given a higher quality of service. What does that mean? What that means is, if you are in an area which is highly congested, let's say that site is seeing very high traffic and is starting to see signs of congestion, you would actually, as an Airtel customer, get a higher quality of service being a corporate customer than would be everybody else who's latching onto that site. So this has given a very enhanced experience, especially on the usage of data, to all of our corporate customers. The other thing we did was, we have, to solve the voice problems, we have an innovative and enriched experience of running the voice over Wi-Fi, where we seamlessly fall over from the radio network onto the home Wi-Fi network. And we've opened that up to now, in collaboration with all of the other broadbands as well, opened it up not only on the Airtel broadband, so that any other broadband that you have running in your house, you're able to seamlessly fall over the Wi-Fi connection, so that every corner of your house you get the same voice experience. And the thickness of the walls, etc., internally inside the building do not interfere with the quality of the voice experience. And these are services that are now available we made them available to all of our corporate customers to help them deal with this situation as you make all your conference calls from home and do all your web meetings from home as well. The second category of challenges that we had was all around operational resilience. As you can imagine, that running one of the largest networks across the country, as well as enabling over 300 million customers on a daily basis, our NOCs are highly sophisticated, and these are the ones that monitor every inch of our network every second of the day. To be able to manage these NOCs, this also is opening up access into the internals of the entire telecom company, and hence doing that in a very secure manner was one of our topmost priority. And this is where a lot of the focus went in the first 48 hours. We had over 50,000 people enabled to work from home in the first 48 hours itself. We virtualized the entire NOC, as well as all our investments in moving all our applications into the cloud, and even part of our network, virtualizing that and moving to the cloud, helped us immensely and allowed us to create distributed NOCs, where we were able to distribute our NOCs in almost 3 or 4 locations, and also the entire operational field workforce of our organization, whether it's our staff or our partners, was divided into Group A and Group B. And we made sure that under no circumstances would ever Group A and Group B either be in the same building or ever come across any scenario where they would interact with each other. So while people within the Group A, Group B could be working together, and this is way before it was full isolation, almost for over a month now, we've been running in this mode where these two groups were completely isolated first from each other, so that in case anything didn't happen with the pandemic in one of our groups, we had the other group that could still keep the country going. And that is what made it essential for us to have a distributed NOC as well, rather than a concentrated NOC, which we used to have before. And hence, within literally a 48-hour period, we had to create that entire infrastructure to work in an active mode. And the other challenge was, of course, our contact centers and the physical telephony connection to enable them to run remotely as well, which is what we had to enable through VDI as well as through VPN. Can we move forward, please? And that's what brings me neatly into the third challenge, which was all around customer services. Now, the ability to continue to service 300 million customers, there's a lot of investment and actually a lot of effort that went into that as well. We have some very enriched AI ML driven applications that our call centers use, which actually in many cases even predict the fault of the customer before the call is connected to the agent. We greatly enhance those so as to now not only predict the fault of the customers, but also solve them before the call was even connected to the agent. And since the number of agents was lower, how we could auto solve the problems of these customers. Our IVRs today are able to solve more than 90 to 95% of the problems in many lines of businesses on the IVR itself or on our digital app and all those assets. The focus on the digital assets has been so much that we saw a spike of a 60% increase again within the first 4 days of the lockdown itself. All of these enhanced AI/ML techniques that we employed, they allowed us to cater to 25% more customers than we would normally do as well in an automated manner, even without the additional human manpower, and in fact with a much more reduced human manpower as well. And then came the next biggest challenge of all, which is enabling every single business to be able to run remotely in a very secure manner, including the onboarding of the entire network team to be able to, for them to do their jobs as well. And this is way beyond just the Airtel guys. This includes from the tower companies to our partners in all the network companies across the country that we leverage. The BCP strategies that we had and the level of solutions and applications that we have a lot of various tiered security solutions for various groups of people, depending on what work they need to do. The highest level of security, of course, goes to the network team, which is now accessing the core infrastructure of the country. And hence, even to keep the country going and the government going, we need to keep that infrastructure ultra secure. And as you can imagine, and you would have been reading a lot of stories in the news as well, cyber attacks on a lot of the essential services companies like telcos and banks, etc., have actually increased during this period as a lot of the malicious elements try to take advantage of this situation. Then all these companies have had to open up their entire infrastructures to work from home in a very short period of time. And hence running that multi-layer security across, even on our VPN and VDI platforms, has been an essential solution for us, for Airtel to work internally as well. And it has also been a great differentiator for us that allowed us to be fully operational in literally a few hours. The amazing thing that I would like to share is besides just opening up 50,000 odd users to literally work from home in less than 2 days, we as a leadership team, and I can tell you from the entire Airtel management board behalf, we made a decision saying we would not alter our calendars at all. We have kept exactly the same schedules that we did in a normal circumstance. The only thing is the meetings moved virtual. And our partnership again with Zoom has allowed us to completely do that. A lot of us, including myself, I do a monthly town hall with all of my engineering staff all around the country. We kept that discipline exactly the same. Our CEO, Gopal, he has done several webinars, in fact, with an increased frequency, which is a literally full all hands meet for almost up to 20,000 people at any point in time. And we are able to support that very, very seamlessly with actually all of these 20,000 people asking him questions live and getting their answers to put their minds at rest. So I also thought I'll share what were some of our own learnings from this entire experience. I think one of the biggest learning for us was that the faster you react, the better it goes for the country and the better it goes for the company as well. The fact that we were able to react in less than 2 days and get everything up and running gave us a real advantage from a competitive point of view, but much more important, it allowed us to service our customers in what was probably one of the most difficult times of their lives that they were going through. All the companies that they support, their livelihood now depends on us being able to run this infrastructure, and hence that level of responsibility and I think it's the spirit of nationalism as well that really comes across at times like this, and as you can imagine. But speed was very, very important. The next was, how do you really enable that level of collaboration? And here, Airtel and all of engineering and even product and engineering runs in a fully Scrum and an Agile manner throughout. So our teams who used to do daily stand-up meetings or the retro meetings or even the sprint plannings, none of that schedule across the entire company has changed. And one of the biggest pieces was using the collaboration tools that we have across to their full extent to allow people to seamlessly work through those, from whether it is virtual whiteboarding sessions to face-to-face conversations that just happen while you're sitting in your home and I'm sitting in mine, to actually being able to work on the same code base together between two people sitting in completely two different cities and trying to do a code review at the same time. Each of those disciplines has been kept exactly the same, and I think that is what has really kept us going. One of the other things over the last 18 months that we had done, which turned out to be far more beneficial and literally one of the biggest saving grace for all of us, was that we had moved the entire engineering NOC is a fully AI-led operations today. And over the last 18 months, we had completely virtualized and put a lot of intelligence on it. And from what was a few hundred people running the NOC maybe 18 months ago is less than 4 people today, because everything is actually now run by AI ops. And in such a time, that has been essential because we've not had to worry about a lot of the operational basics, since all of those remedies are already in place. Just to informally share some stats as well, almost 72% of any kind of even a hardware fault that happens in our data centers is auto resolved by our AI ops and doesn't require a human intervention. The human is just informed post the resolution that this is what had happened and this is what the system did to recover itself and to self-heal. All of those pieces that we were doing as innovations because we felt this is where the technical world is moving at such a time, became literally a lifesaver. Almost all our applications run on the cloud, so accessing them from anywhere was not a challenge for us at all. But it was a challenge for some of our customers who were not as virtualized around the cloud. And hence, we've taken some of our clients in literally span of a few hours to a few days, help them virtualize some of their most critical applications to allow them to work in such seamless a manner. And then, of course, one of the biggest concerns being the cybersecurity vulnerabilities that are actually out there. And here again, we run one of the most world-class NOCs out of our Gurgaon center in Manesar, and the level of, again, it's a very AI-led security operations, but that entire SOC has helped a lot of the financial institutions across the country, as well as our own operations, up and running and thwarting all the malicious elements that have been trying to take advantage. And in fact, our SOC is at its highest level of security levels from the day we were in the lockdown, because we anticipated that this might happen, and that has been a saving grace for us. Again, even in the SOC, 70% of our operations and incident response is automatically handled and doesn't require as much of a time as a human would take to be able to think through and react on an action. And that has been a big saving grace for us. With that, I would actually like to hand over to my colleague Ashish, so he can actually fill you in on what are the kind of propositions based on the same solutions that we've used within Airtel have we created or have got for helping all the corporate customers that we deal with as well. So Ashish, over to you, please.
Thanks, Harmeen. Thanks a lot. So as Harmeen explained, the critical elements in enabling the entire Airtel machinery to continue to operate were these four elements. One was connectivity. Obviously, we are a network company, so we are very well connected, but it may not be as seamless for most other organizations, and that's where we are supporting the organizations in that endeavor. Second is collaboration platforms. Third is cybersecurity. As you open up your entire network, entire central database and everything else to be accessed from remote places, obviously that's a big exposure and you need to protect yourself from. And how do you engage with your customers and your employees in a very seamless manner at a very, very mass scale and a very, very continuous way, so that the information flow is very seamless. So we are covering all of these as part of work from home solutions for our customers. On connectivity front, there are three kind of issues or three kind of areas to be looked at. One is how do you really enable the backbone connectivity? These are large, thick corporate connectivity connecting either to the cloud or to the corporate data centers, where the entire ERP and other central applications are sitting. And we have planned for that, and we'll talk about it. How do we connect employees at home as they are operating and doing the critical work from their homes? And there again, there are two different kind of solutions. One's they are wired solution as well as wireless one. So we will share with you how we can enable both these scenarios, the central kind of corporate connectivity as well as the remote employee connectivity. So as far as the central core network connectivity is concerned, what we have done in this entire period of lockdown and the impact of COVID, we have enabled enterprises to be able to upgrade that very seamlessly with a very, very minimal time lag. Today, any enterprise who is on Airtel network can request upgrades of their network just through email. No formal documentation required, that can come later. And we are able to upgrade these networks within 48 hours. We have enabled a priority desk which takes up all these upgrades on priority and are able to do that. I'm happy to share we have already done 900 such upgrades in last 10 days, and this is working extremely well for all our customers. Apart from enabling a very quick upgrade, we also have some solutions where actually you have seamless headroom available for bustable capacities. Those solutions are available both for internet as well as international connectivity. And these are basically a percentile bustable models. So we create a headroom on your last mile, and whenever you really need more capacity, it is available to you. A good part of it is you actually pay for this capacity only when you use it. If you're not using it, is lying there, but you don't really need to pay for it. So these are the solutions which really allow you to cater to times where you really need sudden upgrade and bustable connectivity. On the broadband side, obviously, a lot of your employees and key officials are all working from home. One of the common most connectivity model is broadband, DSL connectivity. Airtel is reaching to almost 100 cities in the country offering these services. There are two options we have enabled for our customers. One is where employees are currently having their own broadband, but since they're doing work from home activity, they may or may not have enough quota because they're also using for your own personal use. Our organization can actually take a option of upgrading the quota on all the broadbands which the employees are using for work from home. And then they can reimburse this to the employer and employees can pay for it. And we can do this entire activity centrally. All you just have to do is provide us the broadband numbers and we will upgrade them with the additional quota. Second option is, and that is possibly a long run option as well, that bring your employee on a company paid broadband. Once you do that, you are assured one of a very high quality connectivity and enough capacity available on it. More importantly, the entire engagement model becomes B2B, which means your provisioning of the capacity, your upgrades, downgrades, billing, activation, support, everything is managed as a B2B customer and not at an individual consumer. So that option also exists. We are happy to enable a very quick delivery on these given the time and the criticality. The other last mile options which can be very effectively leveraged for work from home is 4G broadband. In fact, just today the results have come out and we are again declared as the best 4G capacity provider in the country. The best speeds are available on Airtel network. Harmeen just shared a little while back. Uh, for our corporate customers, COCB customers, in fact, we have enabled QoS and prioritization on our network so that when you're using Airtel 4G for work from home, you get, in fact, better data speed than other customers who are latched onto the same tower if you are a B2B corporate customer of Airtel. So that's the kind of enablement we have done to ensure that you have really effective connectivity at home while you're doing work from home. Again, two propositions on this. One is if the employees are already using Airtel connections and the quota, they're obviously having personal quota which may or may not be sufficient. You can top up that from the organization. Again, a very seamless enablement. Give us the numbers, we will do that top up. Employees can pay for it and take the reimbursement from the company. Second option, of course, we can provide you a corporate connectivity for your employees. Two options there. One is option of SIM plus device, which is MiFi bundle with SIM. Other option is just the SIM and the employee can use his own device as a hotspot. So all of this will allow a very quick enablement of connectivity at the employee residence, and he should be able to effectively continue to work from home while there's a lockdown and he is not able to come to office. While you have a robust connectivity, the other critical element is the collaboration. How do you bring so many different set of employees together on various sets of interactions, meeting, conferences, and so on? Armin just shared, we have done almost 18 to 20,000 such meetings already in last 7-10 days. Works extremely well with us, and that's the technology we are offering. The uniqueness about what Airtel is doing in this space is that both the Zoom platform is actually hosted in India with Airtel, and therefore it is completely regulatorily enabled. All regulatory rules which are required for offering such service in India is enabled on it. In fact, for work from home, you need data privacy rules which are also taken care of. Two, it is very well integrated with our mobile and fixed line network. So end user not only can use voice over IP service, but also can use a fixed line and a mobile network to connect to these platforms. Of course, there are two use cases in this. One is virtual meeting, uh, where where you can actually conduct your meeting, share content, conduct it through multiple different form factors and devices. Very effective method of continue to engage and continue to get the work done. Second is webinar, and again, very important in this environment when you really have to make communication very seamless. We have ourselves used webinars on Zoom where more than 10,000 participants have joined at the same time. Very effective, very seamless engagement. very easy to conduct question answer sessions, and also to make sure that all the information gets shared in one single form. So these are the two use cases. We have tie-up with both Zoom and WebEx, and we would be happy to this. Part of it is these services can be enabled in few hours. So if you have a requirement, us, and before we can enable this for you. Harmeen, request you if you can take on side.
Sure, thanks, Ashish. So coming back to our cybersecurity solutions as well, this is where it's something that being a telco, a heavy part of our investment goes into in the security and the cybersecurity space, as you can imagine. And hence we've got together working with a lot of the top OEMs across the world, lots of solutions which are whether to allow for centralized access control into your data centers or even in a multi-cloud environment, and even solutions which are completely clientless, for especially for web application access, etc., work beautifully and seamlessly and at very low latency as well. So we have a lot of those, and then of course the robust client-based VPN solutions that would be needed for especially for companies that have heavy applications that are also based out of their data centers, etc. We also support, of course, multi-factor authentication, but enabling single sign-on still for a lot of the enterprise apps, but with full audit trail of user activity. So you are able to see at any point in time, even through remote connectivity, on what is happening, who is doing it, and was logged in or doing something for how long, etc. And then this is backed by a lot of the SOC, the Security Operations Center, has been enhanced to actually now deploy customized solutions based on user behavior analysis as well, which would be very different depending on your company, your kind of traffic, and your industry as well. So we definitely enable a large part of that. We do have one of the largest global SOCs, as you would see around the world, and that Airtel runs for ourselves, our network, as well as for a lot of our customers, including several financial services institutions in the country. And as I said earlier, we've been running these at a very high threat level for the last 2 weeks, and in fact, there are several DDoS attacks that we had caught and prevented at very, very early stages, which actually would be very tough for normal SOCs to do. And I think this is where some of our very early investments in our entire machine learning and AI spaces has really helped us in a very big manner. At the same time, the added advantage that Airtel would provide, being an essential infrastructure, we are very much in contact. In fact, more than contact, we help support a lot of the intelligence agencies within the country as well as beyond, and also work with a lot of the international security companies and get threat intelligence from all around the world, which as a service we make available to all of our clients as well. So if there is any kind of an attack or malicious event, etc., you can come to know about it as earlier than you would normally do, given this very vast reach of comprehensive threat intelligence network that we have built over the last several years. And over and above all of that, because of the vastness of a telecom of this scale and the depth of our security solutions for Airtel itself, the level of technical expertise that we have either in-house or even access to across the globe is immense. And for all the top OEMs, almost any and every one of those solution products, we would have a large part of some of the world's best experts either sitting with us or part of our organization. And at these times, we have opened up access to all of those to our customers as well, to help everybody as much as we can. So if there's anything on this front or any of the other propositions that Ashish has talked about, we'd be very, very happy to help you. And in fact, it'll be our honor to help out any of the companies given the situation in the country, because many of you also provide important services for your organization and also to keep the country going as well.
So that's all from myself and Harmeen, and we can open this up for questions. This is a brief summary of what we discussed today.
Uh, Thank you, Ms. Hermine and Mr. Ashish, for that insightful presentation. It was definitely an eye-opener on how Airtel overcame so many challenges to ensure services for 300 million people and make sure India stayed connected. So with this, we would like to open up the webinar for questions from participants. I would request attendees to please type in their questions, and we would read out the questions for the speakers to answer. So we've already got a lot of questions for you, Ashish and Hermine. They are coming in thick and fast. The first question is for you, Ashish. Uh, the gentleman wants to know, how are you managing if any physical issue of communication happens, for instance, like a fiber cut or a hardware failure at the customer end?
So we have been declared as essential services by Government of India, and that means that all our employees which are engaged in continuity of business, be it operating the NOC services, data center services, fiber restoration teams, as well as the broadband restoration teams, all of them have permits to be able to move around and reach out to the customer place or the place where there is a fault. So our fault operations, central NOC operation, customer services operations are all fully operating. Of course, the almost all of that at the back end is happening from homes, which have been explained how we have enabled them. But the field activity is happening at field at any given point of time. Almost 8 to 10,000 employees and partner employees of Airtel are actually in the field as we speak, restoring circuits wherever they are failures. So we are 100% operational as far as our network is concerned, including in the field.
And if
Sure,
I may
Ashish.
just add that again, while the world was going on lockdown, we had a lot of our very brave guys who actually quarantined themselves inside the data centers and the NOC. And they were going into the data centers with literally suitcases, and we've enabled for them to literally, live and breathe inside those critical infrastructure areas, so they can continue to support the country. And we're very, very
Sure.
indebted and grateful to them.
That's very commendable, Hermine, definitely. Moving on, the next question is for you, Hermine ma'am. Are digital meetings more efficient than physical and traditional office meetings? Is there any study or what's your take on this?
My personal take on this is that yes, actually they are. I am finding, myself also far more disciplined. All the meetings are starting on time and finishing on time. I think they're a little bit more, physically stressful because the strain of just looking at the screen and the concentration that's needed is higher. The advantage is also that actually the concentration is higher, and everybody shows up on time. And I can give you an internal tip as well. Within Airtel, it costs you 100 rupees per minute that you are late. So generally now that discipline is becoming really good. While some of us are becoming rich collecting those 100 rupees, that was only for a few days. Now everybody shows up on time. There are some external studies that are going on as well, and in fact, there was a recent Harvard Business Review article on the same as well, saying that the online meetings are far more disciplined, and I think the pressure is as much on the host as it's on the participants, because unless the host opens the meeting, everybody cannot join, and very often it is the senior managers who are the hosts for the meetings. So if they are on time, everybody else is normally always on time, and that is a behavior that has changed according to HBR as well.
Sure, ma'am. I'm sure that's a very innovative method to ensure that people come on time, and I'm sure a lot of team leads will take a cue from this. Um, Moving on, another question for you, Harmeen ma'am. How do you ensure that each member of the workforce is equally contributed on the ground? Anything that you've enabled for them to monitor the workforce to ensure that the workforce is maximized on the ground?
Yes, so there are, in fact, we've experimented with a few I don't believe in you have to trust people to a certain extent, but yet continue to monitor. So we don't like there are a lot of very intrusive productivity tools that almost measure every keystroke, etc. We don't believe in that as an organization. But yes, I mean, on an average, we've been even if we get we're a highly analytical organization, and so big data is almost like part of our blood because of our business as well. So even in small things like our virtual connectivity, we do a lot of analytics to measure that people are getting the right experience while working from home, and their connections are not dropping, and they're able to be fully productive, and so on and so forth. And we have generally seen that across different segments, the ways of working have actually become very different. For example, we've used a lot of tech solutions to allow for all of our sales guys to continue to be in touch with over 1 million retailers that we have across the country. And even out of those 1 million retailers, even in the shutdown period, over 200,000 of those retailers are still functional, especially in the villages, etc., where if people could not even recharge their mobile, they would not be able to be in touch with anybody at all. And hence, how we keep those retailers fully funded and make sure that they have all the recharges available with them, whether it's day or night, and supporting all of that. So we've enabled for all of these guys to be able to able to contact these thousands of retailers in their geolocations, and keep a close watch and monitoring on all of them. So by monitoring a lot of these patterns, you're able to see that if on an average, a person, when he's going out into the field and he's visiting the retailers, he's able to do maybe 30 or 40 in a day. But when he's just calling them, he's actually able to do almost 70, 80 in a day. So there are lots of, depending on different businesses, our field force, for example, is fully digitized. So there we anyway optimize whether it's the route they take, how long they take, how long they're at a customer premise as well. And whatever deliveries we are doing or installations for broadband for our customers, we are doing contactless installations as well, which means that we don't want the health of any of our engineers or even of our customers to be compromised under any circumstances. And that has actually meant that if a process used to take us 42 minutes, now it might be taking us 49 minutes. We've allowed for all of that and built that into our uh, you know apps which control our workforce management as well. So there are lots of those measurements that we keep doing to make sure that the last man is as productive. But I think it is much more about allowing them to do their job than maybe being ultra controlling, because I don't think as a corporate that's the right mindset to use when it comes to your own people.
Sure, ma'am. The next question is for Ashish. Can you open voice ports as standard on all your broadband circuits, understanding that we connect to our office phones via VPN? For you, Ashish.
Sorry, you mean voice over IP ports?
Yes.
Yeah, voice over IP is allowed on these broadband, so that's not a problem. In fact, for specifically the work from home application, given the regulatory environment, we also have an option of a static IP. So if an organization wants to have a static IP on the broadband with a small incremental charge on the basic pack price, a static IP is also provided on the broadband for enterprise customers.
Sure. So we have two questions related to Zoom. Probably, one can be taken up by Harmeen and the other by Ashish. The one for Ashish is Airtel has partnered with Zoom and WebEx. How does it help customers? Can you throw more light on this? And after this, Harmeen, could you please answer? There are lots of questions related to Zoom as a secure collaboration platform. What are your comments on this? So,
Sure.
Ashish
Then Ashish
first.
first.
So
Sure.
I'll answer the first one. So, see, fundamentally what we have to understand, these collaboration platforms, they are all hosted outside the country today, except for Zoom, which is with us in India. Now, the issue with that is that India has already drafted and defined the data localization rules, which will require most of them to be in India. So, what we have done is actually brought the platform to India to make sure that it is compliant to all the regulatory environment in the country. Second thing is that if it is not in India, then you really can't create an interconnect with the PSTN network, the fixed line network, or the mobile network. The only voice channel available is voice over IP, which may not always be the right one. That is the other enablement we have done on these platforms, that we have created the interconnect with the telecom backbones of the country. Third, of course, for the enterprise customers specifically, we are providing the local support as well. These are all web applications. There are no support available otherwise, but specifically for Airtel customer, we are providing local support. So these are the differentiations we have created for both these platforms, which otherwise, in a consumer environment, it's fine if you're using it, but for enterprise B2B environment, you need these elements to be in place. You need the regulatory compliance, you need the voice channels enabled for both mobile and fixed line, and you need hands and leg support on the ground to be able to speak and get your issues resolved. And that's what we have done.
Sure. Harmeen, ma'am?
So on the security side, I think most of you would have, seen or read about the interview that, the CEO of Zoom, Eric, gave a few days ago as well. So I think overall, I just want to clarify that while we read a lot of these reports, and we've been working very closely with Zoom, throughout this. Zoom was, yes, definitely built as much more of a collaboration platform. And I think some of the security features that they could have built could have been a lot better, and they didn't probably take a lot of some of these vulnerabilities as seriously as they're doing now. But what I am definitely amazed by is the speed at which they've attacked a large part of these. They are actually releasing, so they've stopped all their feature development for 90 days and focusing only on the security features. But last weekend, and in fact, it was supposed to be mid this week as well. So every 2-3 days, they are releasing updates into their apps. So my request of people is, A, keep your apps updated, because all of these security concerns are getting addressed. The second thing is, there is no you have to go a little deeper to see what these security vulnerabilities are, and some of these are also do's and don'ts that we need to employ within our companies. And I'd be very happy to share, if any of the organizations would like. Our security team actually sent out, including throughout the senior leaders within the organization as well, including the corporate office and everybody, very clear guidelines of do's and don'ts. And most of these are just best practices when using video conferencing. Do not send your post links of your meetings in a public domain. That will allow, if there is even a small vulnerability in any platform, there are a lot of people that at this moment are, literally devoting themselves to find those vulnerabilities. So if you are, but the first thing starts by actually making some of your meeting links public. But more importantly, the biggest security concerns of the Zoom bombing that has been happening is through actually the chat platform, where somebody can introduce a spurious link that then the other participant or any of the participants, when they click on that link, is when the vulnerabilities actually get activated. So some of these do's and don'ts and best practices can actually, they're just good discipline. And no matter which platform you use, these are some of the elements that you should definitely avail of as well. And the other piece is that as a collaboration tool, this is much more about enabling conversations, etc. But when it comes to, depending on what kind of an organization, I'll tell you within Airtel as well, Zoom is used for a lot of the exec meetings and for meetings which are, where you are compensating for the face-to-face. When it comes to the daily stand-ups, Zoom is actually integrated in through the VPN inside and into Microsoft Teams or into your Big Bucket or any of your tech applications. And that is all happening through your VPN as well. So your layer of security within your organization anyway protects anything else malicious coming in. And that is nothing to do whether it's Zoom or it's Microsoft Teams or whatever you use. Your layer of protection and your firewall, that if you put it inside your VPN piece, that's a very, very double layer of security that you can use. And that's a good practice that we definitely use within Airtel, for sure.
Sure.
And if
Right,
specific
ma'am.
questions, I have to take them offline.
Sure. The next question is for Ashish. Is there any limitation of employee size of the company to provide the upgrade solution?
No, no. So there is no limitation. Only thing is these are all available on B2B's company paid connections. So as long as you have company paid connections from Airtel, these can be done. No problems at all. No size limitation.
Okay. The next question is for you as well. The gentleman is just wondering if the existing corporate connection subscriptions are they taken care of as well, or is it only new market capture? And who should he report to? If there is a problem with respect to network, voice, video, calling qualities, etc.
So if the question is referring to the QoS which we just mentioned, yes, QoS is already enabled on the entire base. It would, I mean, the process is on. We are migrating the entire base by 13th. It would be get done, and therefore it would be enabled for all B2B customers of Airtel. We are keeping a very small threshold as far as very low ARPU customer, but almost 90% of the base is getting covered. As far as reaching for any specific issue, of course, both me and Harmeen details are there. You can write to us as an exception for now, but the rest of our channels are all available to you. All call center, our email channels, or our app. Everything is available for you to reach out to us for any issue which you are facing right now or may face in future.
Sure. Harmeen, ma'am, how have you virtualized your NOC, your NOC? How have you virtualized it? Gentleman wants to know.
So this is more than this is a webinar in itself. Um, we a lot of things that we've done. The level of intelligence is not. If you really want to virtualize your entire NOC, it is not about just putting monitoring layers around applications. It is about going much deeper. And in fact, our virtualization starts from literally the lowest level of logging across infrastructure to the rack level, to the server level, and then the hardware level, then OS level, then databases, and then at the application. So it covers the whole suite. We spent a good little over a year actually doing this. And what we do is almost everything across the company, every single software, whether it's new, old, it doesn't matter. But there is whatever is logged, we mine all the logs on a real-time basis. And on that mining, we actually make certain decisions on whether we are seeing a degradation of business. So we don't make those decisions saying, oh, my CPU utilization has gone up by 4%. We actually make a decision saying, one particular application that normally opens a socket for 20 milliseconds has now been opening sockets for 24 milliseconds consistently. And that is not seen as a 4 millisecond increase. That is actually seen as a 20% increase in the socket opening time. And those are the cases where the alerts generate. And then for a lot of those alerts, we know what is the action that if a human were taking, what action they would take. The funny thing is that in the technology world and in the engineering world, every action a human takes, actually he or she goes to a system and takes that action as well. So we've actually then used the, as we mine the data, use the intercorrelation of the data as well, that if there is a socket, if I want to take that same example, and the creation of a socket or the release of a socket is taking longer, and that application actually goes somewhere else and does something else while that socket is open, we actually correlate that across all environments so that we understand that one cause could lead to another effect. And then accordingly, all the AI layer keeps making all the decisions the same way that a human would do, and ultimately come to a conclusion of what is the true RC and what needs to be done. And we have been doing this, even our applications, we've been building self-healing capabilities on top of every application that we have to see what we can self-heal. So it's a, I'm happy it's a full case study. In fact, it's an international case study done. There are a few blogs out there as well that some of our guys have written on this. So we are also doing this now for a few of our very prestigious financial services clients as well. So we're happy to discuss this offline, but it's a comprehensive program, and like I said, a webinar itself, how to be done. But it's a very interesting study, anyways. So
Sure,
welcome
ma'am.
to.
Right. The next question is for Ashish. What is the turnaround time of user complaints now vis-a-vis earlier?
It's in a very similar range, probably around 15-20 minutes more than what it was taking earlier, but it's in a very similar range. It's not really changed much.
Okay. Harmeen, ma'am, how are you ensuring safety of your employees?
So lots of things. So I'll actually tell you one part of the internal workings. So the entire Airtel management board of the company, we meet every single day as a discipline, including of course our CEO. So, and every single day we review, and it starts at the same level as I was speaking before, which is it's fully in line. So my CISO, who actually runs the entire BCP program, he presents back to the AMD on a daily basis of what's happening across the world, what's happening across the country, and then what's happening across the company. And every single one of our field force that is actually out there, and all our heroes who are really braving the situations on a daily basis, we know every single person who's out there. There's a centralized national helpline that we have as well for any one of them, whether it's a health concern and any symptoms they have, to anybody who needs any other help, or anybody who gets in is stopped by a local beat cop while he's on his way to go and repair a tower or anything like that. Every single incident is tracked. And if we do find that there was an incident, and we did have some in where some local beat cops, they are not as aware of what are essential services across the country, or what mandate the Prime Minister must have given and why a person is going there. And if we feel that some of our people have got caught in that, the relay back from them into our central control room, back into our connections into each of those the governments of those states or cities, our turnaround time is about 25 to 35 minutes, and we try to ensure, if not instantly, that we are able to solve that situation so our guys can literally go and do their jobs. And while the first few days there were a few of those incidents that we had to peel through, I'm very happy to say that for for the country our size, those incidents are literally in very, very small single digits, if anything, now. And from a health perspective, I think we started the quarantine procedures and our sanitization procedures across all of our offices, switches, data centers, well before most of the companies. And every one of our staff, whether it's a field engineer coming for a repair to your site, has not only gloves and masks, and they do contactless installations, etc. as well. But much more importantly, each one of them, it's a very, very clear protocol in our response plan, which is published down to the junior most level as to what to do in different circumstances. And that has been in place for actually almost a month today. So we started well before this lockdown, and hence it's a very clear discipline. And even if somebody has sneezed in our organization, there is a spreadsheet that I see where it actually says that yesterday 4 o'clock Ashish sneezed.
Okay. Wow.
But health and safety of your employees has to come first. So if they understand that that's the level of concern you have, I think that's what gives them the confidence as well. And I must say, it is not easy. It is absolutely not easy. Everybody wants to be in the safety of their home at this point in time, and for a lot of our staff that actually have to be out there, we also understand that how involved their families are as well. In fact, we have a lot of brave stories from within the company where people have actually housed a lot of other, colleagues, because paying guests were not allowed in many cities and people were just left, and then the government closed the inter-border transfer, so people could not even go to their hometown. So there are all kinds of stories all around, and as I'm sure in many other companies as well. Ours is no different. But I think we are very fortunate that we, at such a time also, we have an opportunity to actually service the country. So we're just
Sure,
trying to
ma'am.
do the best we can.
Right. The next question is also for you. You would be experiencing huge traffic on your Airtel Thanks app. What are the new ways you are adopting to arrest them on the apps as your loyal users?
So absolutely, we're seeing a full surge. Our traffic has gone up many folds over the last few weeks. And anyways, we always had Airtel has a very deep digital reach as well into our user base. So we our daily traffic also is in high millions on our app, and of course our monthly traffic is in very high millions. For us, two things. One is the entire app actually runs on the cloud. It's an internal Airtel cloud, but it's a private cloud. But our cloud has full elasticity. So we've seen if the app goes, even if it starts getting 4 times, 5 times the traffic, etc., the infrastructure just auto expands, and while we're still doing all other things, the infra has expanded and taken over all the whatever resources are needed by the app. They're made available to the app, so there is absolutely no disruption at all, and nothing really, no manual intervention needed as well. But the other things we have been doing is we actually recently launched a very unique program, and I would like to take the small advantage to take your help in that program as well, within your organizations as well as in others. And there are lots of field forces of various companies that are impacted who are actually working with us on this program, and it's called the Superhero Program, where we're encouraging a lot of people that if you know how to digitally recharge and you do it for yourself, help others and do it for them as well. And in a normal world, what I would pay a retailer if he were doing recharges for others, I'm just giving that back into the community to allow for people to actually help others as well. So that's a program we just literally launched 48 hours ago, and we are hoping is going to get viral in the next few weeks as we start propagating it from a couple of days from now. And really hope that it helps millions and millions of customers out there as well, because it's very important that they are, everybody is not as digitally savvy, and hence they have the help that they need. If they can neither get to a retailer nor can they do it themselves. So these are the people who actually need help. So there are many such programs and initiatives that we are working on. But coping with traffic and scale, I think that's one thing that Airtel does really well, and something we cope with very well. So that's not a concern at all within our organization.
Sure, ma'am. So participants, we've already overshot the deadline of an hour. The session has gone for over an hour now. So there's just time for one final question before we bring the session to a close. The last question goes to Ashish. The gentleman wants to know, may I know the lead time of getting broadband connectivity to our employees?
See, in obviously typical scenarios, it's normally 24 hours to 48. But in the current situation where the mobility of the teams is little restricted, I would say around 5 to 7 days is one should expect. We are trying to prioritize as far as possible, but one should at least budget for around 5 days for this.
Great. Thank you so much. That's all we have time for. I'm sure this session would have allayed a lot of our participants' fear with respect to connectivity and security and gave them the confidence that their business would run as usual. With this, we would like to bring this session to a close. Thank you, Ms. Hermine and Mr. Ashish, and my thanks to all participants for joining in. Have a wonderful evening ahead. Stay home and stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you.